The sun hit the tall, gray towers of Eldoria Castle. The stone looked clean and powerful. This was a place of old rule and great wealth. People traveled for many days to reach it. They came for a big event. The royal tournament was about to begin. A young man rode his brown horse through the main gate. His name was Sir Kael. He was not a prince or a duke. He was simply a knight. His armor was polished, but it was simple steel. He did not wear gold or bright jewels. He carried only a strong shield and a straight sword. Kael was known for his strength. He was famous for his speed. He was one of the best fighters in the land. But he had no land or money of his own. He was loyal to the king, and that was all. He rode past rich tents. Knights in colorful silk clothes waved at him. Kael nodded back. He kept his eyes ahead. He was here to win the prize. He found a spot for his horse. A stable boy, small and nervous, helped him. Kael gave the boy a kind smile. "Take good care of him," Kael said. The boy promised he would. Kael walked toward the main courtyard. He heard music. He heard the sound of horns and drums. He saw banners waving high in the bright blue sky. The air was loud and full of excitement. This tournament was special. It was the king's final gift to his daughter before a big change. Princess Lyra was going to be married soon. She was marrying Prince Theron. This marriage was very important for Eldoria. It would bring peace and money from a large, strong kingdom far away. Everyone knew Lyra was marrying for duty, not for love. But the people were happy for the peace. Kael did not think about the princess. He thought about the fighting. He needed the prize money to help his family back home. He focused on his shield and his sword. He needed to be strong. Then, Kael stopped walking. He saw her. She stood on a high balcony. The balcony was made of dark wood and covered in red velvet. She stood next to her father, the king. The sun hit her golden hair. It looked like a natural crown. She wore a dress of soft blue. It was the color of a clear morning sky. This was Princess Lyra. Kael had seen her picture before. Every knight in the kingdom had. But the picture was wrong. The picture did not show the light in her eyes. It did not show the gentle way she held her hands. She was beautiful, but it was more than just that. There was a quiet, deep sadness around her eyes. Kael felt a sudden, powerful pull. It was like a thick rope had wrapped around his chest and pulled him hard. He could not look away. The noise of the crowd faded to a whisper. The music became a distant hum. All he saw was the princess. She was very far away, but Kael felt close to her. He forgot about the prize money. He forgot about his simple armor. He forgot about his family duty. He forgot everything except the light in her blue eyes. This feeling was wrong. It was dangerous. It was foolish. He was just a knight, a fighting man with no name. She was a princess, soon to be the queen of a rich land. He knew this truth. But love does not care about truth. Love does not care about titles. It just happens. And it happened to Kael right there. He fell in love with a woman he could never, ever have. The king raised his hands. The horns blew again, very loud. The king spoke to the crowd. He thanked the knights for coming. He said the tournament was a celebration of two things. First, the skill of the fighters. Second, the coming marriage of his daughter, Lyra, and Prince Theron. Kael heard the name Theron. It was a sharp, cold sound. He looked up at the balcony again. Lyra looked down at the crowd. Her eyes moved over the many faces. Then her eyes found Kael. It was only for a second, but Kael felt it deep inside him. It was a moment of perfect quiet in the noise. She did not smile. She just looked at him. Then her eyes moved quickly on. Kael felt his face burn hot under his helmet. He quickly looked down. He clenched his hands into tight fists. He was a fool. He had to stop this. He walked into the crowd. He pushed the strange, new feeling away. Focus on the fight. That was all he could do. The tournament began. The first event was the joust. This was the most famous part. Two knights rode at full speed. They tried to knock the other off their horse with a long, heavy wooden pole. Kael was very good at this. He had practiced since he was a small boy. His arm was like iron. His aim was perfect. He won his first match easily. Then his second. The crowd started to notice the simple knight with the strong arm. He moved through the rounds. He did not show off. He just won. During the breaks, he stood with the other winners. He saw Prince Theron for the first time. Theron was tall. He had dark, rich hair. His armor was covered in gold designs. He looked strong and very proud. He stood with a group of friends, laughing loudly. He did not look at the field. He looked bored. Kael watched him. Theron seemed to own the world. He was born into everything Kael fought for. He was handsome, but there was something cold in his eyes. Kael and Theron were both good. They were on opposite sides of the list. Everyone knew they would meet in the final round. After his third win, Kael was walking back to the stables. He had taken off his helmet. His hair was dark and wet with sweat. He was tired but happy. He had done well. A lady-in-waiting, a small servant girl of the princess, came running up to him. She looked nervous and kept looking over her shoulder. "Sir Kael?" she whispered. Kael stopped. "Yes, I am Kael. The Princess Lyra. She sends a message," the girl said very quietly. Kael's heart started beating fast. It felt like a bird trapped inside his chest. "A message? What is it?" The girl held out a small, white cloth. It was a handkerchief. It was made of the finest, softest silk. There was a tiny, perfect flower stitched into the corner. It smelled like roses and fresh rain. "She watched your last match," the girl said quickly. "She said you fought with a great heart. She asks that you keep this for luck." The girl put the handkerchief in Kael's hand. It was soft and light. Then she turned and ran away, back toward the castle walls. Kael stood there, holding the cloth. This was not a normal gift. Knights sometimes got small gifts from ladies. But this was from the princess, the future bride of Prince Theron. He looked at the little flower. A feeling of hope, warm and painful, spread through his tired body. He knew he should give it back. He knew this was wrong. But he folded the silk handkerchief carefully. He tucked it deep into the pocket of his armor, close to his heart. "A great heart," he whispered to himself. He did not need prize money anymore. He did not need land. He needed to be worthy of that quiet look. He needed to be worthy of the silk cloth. He decided he would win the tournament for her. Not for the gold. For her. The next day was the final day. The field was packed with people. The sun was hot. The noise was huge. Kael won his morning fight. He was ready for the final joust. It would be him against Prince Theron. The loud trumpets sounded. Kael rode out on his brown horse. He looked strong and ready. The crowd cheered loudly for him now. He was the common man, the dark horse. Then Prince Theron rode out. His horse was black and large. Theron wore a new suit of armor that shone like fire. The king and Lyra were on the balcony watching. Kael looked up. He saw Lyra was wearing a simple gold chain today. He saw her eyes searching the crowd. She found him. She held his gaze for a long moment. He felt the secret warmth of the handkerchief against his chest. The announcer spoke. "The final match, Sir Kael, against Prince Theron." The crowd roared with noise. Kael rode to his starting line. He lifted his heavy lance. He felt the weight and the power. He looked across the field at Theron. Theron smiled a lazy, proud smile. He knew Kael was good, but he also knew he was a prince. Princes do not lose to simple knights. The signal was given. The air was tense and quiet. "Charge!" Kael lowered his lance. He kicked his horse forward. The ground shook. He rode straight and true. All his power and all his feeling were in this charge. He aimed for a dangerous, perfect spot on Theron's armor. The two horses thundered toward each other. The noise was deafening. Kael saw Theron's lance point coming right at his chest. Kael did not move. He held his line. Crack! The noise of the lances hitting was like thunder. Kael felt a huge force hit his shield. His vision went white for a moment. He held on tight. Theron was not so lucky. Kael's aim was perfect. The lance hit the prince hard. Theron flew off his horse. He landed on the dirt with a heavy thud. His horse stopped quickly. The crowd went completely silent. Then, a huge noise erupted. Cheers, shouts, and stomping feet. Kael had won. The simple knight had knocked the great prince off his horse. Kael pulled his own horse to a stop. He looked at the ground. Theron was slowly trying to sit up. He was not hurt badly, only shocked and angry. Kael rode back slowly. He kept his eyes low. He won the fight, but he worried about the anger of a prince. He looked up at the balcony. The king was laughing and clapping. But Lyra was not clapping. She had covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes were wide. She looked surprised and something else. Was it worry? Or was it relief? Kael did not know. But he knew one thing. He had fought his way into her life. Now, the impossible love was real. It was not just a dream. It was a dangerous truth. A servant led Kael back to the winner's stand. The king came down to meet him. "Sir Kael," the king said, putting a hand on his shoulder. "A fine hit. You have great skill. Come, you must join us for the winner's feast tonight. You will sit at the high table with the prince and princess." Kael felt a chill. The high table. With Lyra. And with the angry Prince Theron. "Your Majesty, I—" "No words." The king smiled. "You won. You earned it. Tonight, you are my guest of honor." Kael bowed. He knew this was a terrible idea. He had just made the future king of the West look foolish. And now he would sit next to the woman they both loved. But he could not say no to the king. And he could not say no to Lyra. He looked up at the balcony one last time. Lyra was gone. Kael walked away to prepare for the night. He touched the silk handkerchief hidden in his armor. He had won the joust. Now he faced a much harder fight. The fight for a heart that was already promised. The night was coming. The dangerous feast would begin soon. This was only the start of a trouble that would change everything. Kael was ready to fight again. He just did not know how to fight a wedding. The king's final words echoed in his mind. "You will sit at the high table with the prince and princess." Kael sighed. He was in love. The sun had set. Darkness covered Eldoria Castle, but the grand hall was bright. Hundreds of candles lit the room. The long walls were covered in soft, colored cloth. A fire roared in a huge stone fireplace. The smell of roasted meat and sweet wine filled the air. Sir Kael felt heavy and out of place. He had changed from his dusty armor into clean, simple clothes. They were the best clothes he owned, but next to the velvet and silk of the other guests, they looked plain, like a brown field next to a garden. He walked toward the high table. This table sat on a raised platform. It was where the king, the prince, and the princess sat. Kael's heart beat fast. He felt like a boy walking into a lion's den. The king smiled warmly at him. "Kael, welcome. Come, sit here." The king pointed to a chair next to Princess Lyra. Lyra was stunning. Tonight, she wore a deep green dress. The color made her golden hair shine even brighter. She looked like a fairy princess, but the sadness Kael had seen earlier was still there, like a shadow under her bright eyes. Kael bowed low to the king and then quickly to Lyra. He did not dare to look at her for too long. He sat down stiffly. Across the table sat Prince Theron. Theron's face was dark. He had a proud, mean look. He was wearing a cloak that cost more than Kael's entire family owned. He looked at Kael with cold anger. Theron spoke loudly, so everyone nearby could hear. "Sir Kael, you are lucky the joust was not a real battle. I hear your horse is very common. A true war horse would have put you in the dirt." The king frowned. "Theron, that is enough. Kael won fairly. He is a brave knight." Kael kept his voice even. "Thank you, your majesty. Prince Theron, I fought with the horse I have, and I won." Theron sneered but did not reply. He picked up his wine cup. "I need a plan," he thought. "I need to see her alone." He walked back toward the castle walls. He saw a small, dark door near the kitchen. A servant was standing outside, looking tired. Kael walked up to him. He pulled a small silver coin from his pocket, the last money he had from his last fight. "Friend," Kael said quietly, "I need your help. I must pass a message to the Princess Lyra. It is very important. For the safety of the kingdom." He knew the last part was a lie, but he hoped it would work. The servant looked at the coin. Then he looked at the high, dangerous walls. "If I am caught, I will lose my head, Sir Knight." "You will not be caught," Kael promised. "I need to know the time and place where she is alone tomorrow. A garden, a quiet room, anything." The servant looked at the coin again. He took it quickly and hid it in his shirt. "I am not supposed to know this, but she goes to the old rose garden every morning before the sun is high. She sits by the fountain. No one goes there then. It is very private." "What time?" "The bells ring for the morning prayer at 5. She will be there then. It is her only time alone." Kael felt a huge wave of relief. "Thank you, friend. You have done a great kindness." The servant nodded and walked away quickly. Kael knew this was his chance. Meeting her secretly was an act of high treason. If Theron found out, or even the king, Kael would be thrown into a dark cell. But he had to know the truth of her heart. He had to give her a way out. He walked to his own tent outside the main castle walls. He did not sleep much that night. He thought about the silk, the cold eyes of Theron, and the look of deep fear in Lyra's eyes. He made a plan. It was a risky, foolish plan. But it was the only fight he had left. Before the first light of dawn, Kael rose. The castle was quiet. The only sound was the wind. He dressed quickly and buckled his sword belt. He took the little silk handkerchief and held it tight in his hand. He moved through the dark garden paths like a ghost. He found the old rose garden. The stone fountain was quiet. The air was cool and smelled of wet earth and old flowers. He saw her. Lyra was already sitting by the fountain. She was wrapped in a simple white shawl. She looked small and very lonely. She was looking into the dark water. Kael cleared his throat softly. Lyra turned quickly. Her eyes widened, but she did not look surprised. Maybe she had hoped he would come. Kael walked up to her. He knelt on one knee, like a true knight meeting his lady. He held out the handkerchief. "Princess Lyra," Kael said, his voice low and serious. "I did not come for luck. I came for you. You are in danger. Tell me what you need and I will do it. Even if it means fighting both kingdoms to keep you safe." Lyra looked at the handkerchief, then at his eyes. Tears finally spilled onto her cheeks. She did not wipe them away. "Oh, Kael," she whispered. "My poor, brave knight. You shouldn't have come. You put yourself in danger." "I am already in danger," Kael said. "I am in love with you." The simple words hung in the cold morning air. They were more powerful than any sword. Lyra looked at him, truly seeing him. "I know, and I cannot let you lose your life for me." "Then we will run," Kael said quickly. "Tonight, I have a plan. We can disappear into the northern woods. I can protect you there." Lyra looked terrified. "Run? That is impossible. They will find us. They will kill you for treason. And the marriage, the treaty. If I run, my father's kingdom will face a war. Theron's people will attack Eldoria." Kael stood up slowly. The weight of the kingdom fell on him. Lyra was right. They could not just run away. Their love would cost thousands of lives. Lyra looked up at him. "There is only one way, Kael, and it is the most dangerous path of all. The only way to stop the wedding is to prove Theron is a bad man to the king. My father loves peace more than anything. If he sees proof that Theron is truly cruel, he might stop the wedding himself. But we have less than 3 days to find that proof." Kael nodded. "Tell me what we need to look for, princess. I will find it." The secret was shared. The love was confessed. Now the impossible task was set. Kael had a fight that was much harder than a joust. He had to stop a powerful wedding and save a kingdom in less than 3 days. The next 2 days passed like a bad dream. The castle was filled with joy and excitement for the royal wedding. But for Sir Kael and Princess Lyra, it was a time of fear and secret work. The wedding was only hours away. Lyra gave Kael small notes hidden in books or passed by her loyal lady-in-waiting. The notes told him about Theron's actions. "Theron is staying in the Old West Tower," one note read. "He keeps a locked chest there. His guards are fierce, but they are often drunk after midnight." Another note told Kael what to look for. "He collects old promises, Kael. Papers where small lords or merchants promised him favors. He likes to hold power over people." Kael spent his days acting busy, polishing his armor in public. But his nights were dangerous. He moved through the castle's secret halls and dark service tunnels. He felt like a thief, not a knight. On the third night, the night before the wedding, Kael knew it had to be done. There was no more time. He put on dark clothes. He hid his sword. He carried only a small, sharp knife and a piece of rope. He moved through the quiet castle after the midnight bells rang. He reached the base of the West Tower. 2 guards sat by the door. They were sharing a bottle of wine and speaking in thick, sleepy voices. Kael waited in the dark until one guard went away to get more wine. The moment the guard was gone, Kael moved fast. He hit the remaining guard quickly on the head with the heavy base of his knife. The guard fell without a sound. Kael dragged the guard into the shadow. He took the key from the guard's belt. His hands were shaking. This was not a fight in the open field. This was breaking the law. He unlocked the door and slipped inside. The stairs were made of stone and felt cold under his feet. He climbed high, higher than he had ever been in the castle. He reached Theron's private room. He heard soft, slow snoring from inside. Theron was sleeping soundly. Kael used the key and stepped inside the room. It smelled of rich perfume and unwashed clothes. A fire was burning low in a stone stove. Kael's eyes quickly searched the room for the chest. It was there. A large box made of black wood with thick iron straps. It sat under a window. It had a heavy, complex lock. Kael knelt by the chest. He knew he could not pick the lock. It was too strong. He looked at the sleeping Prince Theron. It was too risky to search his body for another key. Kael felt panic rise in his throat. He had come too far. He looked around the room one last time. There was a small, dusty table near the bed. On it was a silver wine cup and a small leather book. Kael picked up the leather book. It was Theron's journal. It was thick with notes. Kael quickly flipped through the pages. The handwriting was messy and proud. He found it. A list. The list had names of people. Next to the names were small notes about what Theron had promised them. And, more importantly, what they had to give him in return. One line made Kael stop and suck in his breath. It was a name Kael knew, Lord Veron. Lord Veron ruled the lands to the east. The king loved Lord Veron. The note said, Veron promised me the eastern gate after the wedding. I will take his gold mines and he will get a small piece of land. He believes I will pay him later. Fool. I will only send soldiers. This was the proof. Theron was planning to steal a part of Eldoria and hurt a loyal friend of the king right after the wedding. He did not care about the peace treaty. He only cared about taking land and money. Kael quickly copied the list onto a piece of paper he had brought. He memorized the exact page number in the journal. He put the journal back exactly where he found it. As Kael turned to leave, he heard a sound. Who is there? Theron was awake. He sat up in bed, his eyes wide and angry. He saw Kael standing there, dressed in dark clothes. Theron let out a loud, high shout. A thief! Guards! Guards! Kael knew he could not escape. He had to face this. He put the paper safely into his belt. Theron jumped out of bed, grabbing a heavy sword from the wall. He was faster than Kael expected. You peasant! Theron roared. You think you can steal from me? You will die now, common knight. Theron attacked. Kael did not want to fight. He only wanted to escape. He used his small knife to block Theron's heavy sword. Clang! The sound was loud in the small room. Kael was the better fighter even with the small knife. He moved quickly, dodging the heavy, angry swings of the prince. I am not a thief, Theron, Kael shouted. I know your plan. I know you plan to steal from Lord Veron and hurt the king's peace. Theron's face turned white with fear and rage. Lies! You will not speak of this. He swung his sword wildly. Kael saw his chance. Theron had left his side open. Kael kicked the prince hard in the chest. Theron gasped and fell back onto the floor, dropping his sword with a crash. At that moment, the door burst open. The other guard and 3 of Theron's soldiers rushed into the room. Seize him! Theron screamed from the floor. He is a traitor. He tried to kill me. The soldiers moved to grab Kael. Kael knew he could not fight for men. He jumped onto the window ledge. The window was open. I have the proof, Prince, Kael yelled. The king will know the truth. He jumped out the window and onto the roof of the castle walkway below. It was a long, painful fall, but Kael rolled and used his skill to stop the worst of the injury. He ran as fast as he could across the cold, damp stone roof. The soldiers were shouting above him. The alarms were starting to ring across the castle. Kael ran until he reached the outer wall. He used his rope, tying it quickly to a sturdy metal ring used for flags. He did not look down. He climbed over the edge and started sliding down the rough stone wall toward the dark ground below. He landed hard on the earth. He grabbed his sword and ran into the forest outside the castle. He kept running until the loud shouts and bells of the castle were far behind him. He waited for an hour in the thick, dark trees. He checked the paper in his belt. It was still there. He rode his horse back toward the castle in the early light. He needed to get the proof to the king. The wedding was set for noon. He had only a few hours. He rode straight to the king's personal guardhouse. I need to see the king now. It is an emergency of the kingdom, Kael shouted. The guard recognized him as the tournament champion. He led Kael quickly to the king's morning room. The king was sitting at a large desk, drinking tea. He looked tired. "Kael? What is this noise? Why are the bells ringing?" "Theron says you tried to hurt him in his sleep." The king looked angry. Kael dropped to one knee. "Your Majesty, I did not try to hurt the prince. I went to find proof of his treason. I found it." Kael quickly pulled out the paper. He told the king everything Lyra had said. He told him about the secret journal and the plan to steal Lord Veron's gold mines. The king read the paper. His face grew pale, then very red with fury. He hit the desk with his fist. "Treason! I married my daughter to a snake." "Your Majesty," Kael said, "Theron is a danger to Eldoria. The marriage must be stopped." The king stood up, his voice shaking. "Call the guards. Wake the prince. Get my daughter. Bring them all to the great hall now." The great hall was silent as everyone gathered. The guests were standing in their wedding clothes. Lyra was there, dressed in a beautiful white wedding gown, looking nervous. Theron stood next to her, pale and furious. The king walked to the high table. "Prince Theron," he boomed. "Explain this." He showed Theron the paper. Theron stared at Kael, hate burning in his eyes. "Lies, Your Majesty. This knight is in love with your daughter. He is trying to cause trouble so he can steal her." The crowd gasped. Lyra put her hand over her mouth. "He lies," Theron shouted. "Ask him where he got that paper. It is a fake." The king looked at Kael. "Is this true, Kael? Do you love my daughter?" Kael stood tall. He looked straight at Lyra, then at the king. "Yes, Your Majesty. I love her. But that does not change the truth. The paper is real. The note is copied from his private journal, which is in his room in the West Tower. Check the table by his bed. The entry is on page 73. The king looked at Theron. Theron looked away quickly. The king did not wait. He told his captain of the guards, "Go now. Check the West Tower. If what this knight says is true, bring the journal here." The captain ran out. The entire hall waited in a thick, heavy silence. Theron stood still, his face dripping with sweat. Lyra looked at Kael. She gave him the smallest, most secret smile. It was a promise of everything. The captain returned quickly, holding the heavy leather journal. He opened it to page 73. The king read the page. He read about Lord Veron, the mines, and the soldiers. The king dropped the book onto the table. "Thud. Theron," the king said, his voice deadly quiet. "You are not a good man. You are a greedy, hungry snake. You have brought shame to my castle." Theron tried to run, but the guards were faster. They grabbed him. "This wedding is cancelled," the king roared. "Theron will be sent back to his kingdom in chains. Eldoria will find a way to live in peace without him." The crowd erupted in a mix of surprise and relief. Lyra ran to her father and hugged him. Kael felt weak, but he had won. He had won the greatest fight of his life. Lyra walked toward Kael. She took his hand, right there in the great hall in front of everyone. "You saved me, Kael," she whispered. "And you saved the kingdom." The king walked over, smiling. "A knight of honor. You are no longer just Sir Kael. You will be the lord of the West Tower, Kael, and the kingdom owes you everything. Ask for whatever you want." Kael looked at the king, then back at Lyra. He still held her hand. He knew what he wanted. "Your Majesty," Kael said, his heart full, "I want only one thing, the honor of trying to win the Princess Lyra's hand in marriage. Not as a king, but as the man who fought for her heart." Lyra's eyes shone. The king laughed, a loud, happy sound. "You already won the joust, Lord Kael," the king said. "And you won the hardest joust of all, the heart of my daughter. Done. The wedding is off, and a true love story has just begun." The two looked at each other, the simple knight and the powerful princess. Their hands were joined. The impossible had happened.